So if you're just joining us or have been patiently waiting, this is the Guest of Honor panel, and thank you so much for your patience.
Is that purposeful or?
So we have Corkie with sour citrus suits.
That's right.
Yeah. I figured I'd ask you some questions, if that's all right.
Let's go.
Yeah, so first off, you mentioned you're probably from SoCal. Did you grow up there, and how did you first discover furry fandom?
So I did grow up in SoCal, down in San Diego area, and I first started getting into I wouldn't say the furry fandom exactly, but I was into a lot of like online games, webkins. They run Monosphere. I don't think anybody knows that one anymore. That was a big one. Impressive Title, Impressive World, bunch of different animal games. You were playing as an animal. You got to run around with an animal, create your own. I was into those for a while. I played a bunch of those, and then I started finding all the costumes. Age, but I found out about the fursuits, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Ever I could even watch PAWcon parade videos for hours on end for whatever reason. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And eventually I ended up joining the fandom and started doing like artwork and stuff, commissions. And that eventually branched off into fursuit cards originally in 2020. And then once I got fired from my job, I ended up going full-time with fursuit.
Okay. So what was the first convention that you ended up
attending? I ended up at BLFC 2019. Okay. I attended BLFC 2019. It was fun. It was a little more cliquey than I thought.
Yeah.
It was going to be a little thing. I didn't have any idea of what a con was going to be like anyways. But it was a little more cliquey, and I was like, okay, like it's a good vibe, like it's fun. But I didn't have the greatest time ever.
Right, and then after that, like right into the pandemic.
Yeah, right into the pandemic, and then I was like, well, so there goes all that. Like that's over with. And then I ended up in 2021. I applied for an event at TTFC 2021.
Okay.
And I got accepted, and that was what kickstarted the non-stop pro rock machine thing.
No, that's awesome. Do you mind sharing what was the first fursuit you ever made?
So the first fursuit I ever made was my own character. It was, I had commissioned it to have it in time for a Comic-Con that was local to me in 2018, I believe. I had commissioned it, and they didn't do any of it. They made the head base, ordered all the fur, and then told me, I don't want to do this anymore, and just sent it to me. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I had this head base and a bunch of fur, and had no idea what to do. Yeah, and I had no idea what to do. With like a week left before the con, and I was like, okay, I can figure this out. This can't be that hard, right? And thankfully, down the street where my grandfather used to live, we had a neighbor who made plushies and stuff. She had sewing machine and everything. So I would take it on my bike, and pack everything in a bag, and I'd ride down to her house, and we would sit there, and she'd teach me how to tape everything, how to transfer the patterns, how to pattern everything, maybe flip it to the other side. She taught me how to sew everything, we saved all the patterns, and I put together that suit in like 3 days.
Wow.
It was not the greatest, but I mean, it worked. It sure worked.
Yeah, but still, to go from not, like, did you sew and do other sort of arts?
The only other art I ever did was I was drawing on the computer. I had a little drawing tablet that connected to the computer, and I was making just artwork, different animals and whatnot. I had never picked up a needle. Never. That was something that I had never thought to do or anything. So it was a huge learning experience, and if she hadn't helped me, I probably would.
Okay. And then it was just a few years, I guess, 2-3 years later that you started, I guess you lost your job.
That was 2018, 2019, 2020 I started, so yeah, 2 years, about 2 years. almost exactly too, because I got fired in October 2020, which I have a story on. But so
you'd like to share your
I got stories. So yeah, I had to fix a few things on the suit because the seams had popped on the ears, and I didn't exactly know what I was doing, so I had to look at a few tutorials to figure it out. Bought like a little tiny sewing kit, just like $3 or something. It was just an itty bitty little thing with a bunch of needles, some thread, and tiny scissors. And I sat there and I sewed the ears back on, and I was like, oh, well, I still have some fur. Like, let me try sewing a tail or something. And so I sat there and was like practicing tails, and then I did some stuffing, and I put in the tail, and like, okay, this isn't actually working out well. Like, this kind of looks like crap. So I stopped for a little bit. It's whatever. I don't have to do this. I'm fine. And I had a full-time job at that point. So this was all my downtime. And finally, I wasn't gonna make. I started, so I got furloughed early in 2020 from my current job, and didn't have anything at that point to, supply income. So I bought some fur, and I was like, oh, I can just make parts. Like, I'll just sit here and sew parts. It can't take that long if I do the, So I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting and sewing. I'm getting part commission. I'm doing tails, and then I branch off and do paws, and then I'm doing feet. And I'm like, okay, this isn't bad. And I decided I'm gonna try to make an actual head. I'm gonna try to do that. I got a base. I went out to LA and I bought the fur from a fabric supplier that's out there in the fabric district. Got the fur, started working on it. I'm like, this isn't too hard. Like, this is actually really good. And then I got another job, so all my time went to that. And then I got fired because the lady texted me.
Oh no. And it sounds like through that you were able to go full time.
I was able to go full time at that point, yeah. Because we were still on the pandemic times as it is, so I was still like, there wasn't much to worry about at that point, except, oh, we need groceries for the next month. Can we go find any meat? I don't know.
So are there any artists or designers, kind of creators that kind of influenced you?
Yeah. I remember back in the day, I was a huge fan of mischief makers before they disappeared, which is still sad. I do wish that they would actually come to work, but it is what it is. They were a huge influence. I wanted a suit from them for ages back in the day. Also, Multicolored Bark, back when they were Autumn Fallings, they were a huge inspiration. I loved their work as well. They were one that I wanted to get a suit from. Who else? Phoenix Nest, they were a big inspiration as well. Sky Pro, a lot of the bigger makers, because those were the ones you always heard and saw online. And you can pick them out from the crowd. Anytime you look at an Anthrocon parade video or something, you're like, oh, that's a that, oh, that's a that. I like that one. That one's from, So I had a lot of people who I was looking up to at the time, but I still look up to them. But I feel more so on their level at this point, so I don't. It's not so much as looking up as looking directly in front of me.
Yeah. Oh, very great. You can talk about sort of what the design process, because I don't actually know a lot about how you make a fursuit. I have one. Did the duct tape dummy and sent that in, but what's the process and where do you start?
So I work in batches now, but back in the day when I was just starting to carve heads and whatnot, the way I start, which is a little different from maker to maker, the way I start is I draw out the patterns that I'm thinking of. So if I want a duchy, I'm going to draw the muzzle how it should be, right? Like, long, slow, big rounded muzzle, stuff like that. So I take and I draw that, and then I'll transfer all the pieces of paper shapes onto foam in varying thicknesses. So my muzzles are usually 2 inches thick of foam, and then I shave all that down. Sometimes I'll add another inch to the side to make it more fullness,
Okay.
or a half inch if I just want that little bit of roundness.
This is the foam like for the head?
Yeah, this is all upholstery foam. And I buy my foam from a bulk supplier at this point, but you know, people start off with the Walmart rolls or Joann's. Joann's obviously is a huge buyer, or not buyer, seller.
Yeah.
And they sometimes have deals, but I get mine way cheaper from my supplier.
Yeah, okay. Makes
But
sense.
yeah, I take all the paper patterns and then I put them on the foam. I trace it all out, cut it all out, shape it with scissors. And then I take all those and I have to glue them to a bucket head. I use the bucket head method. I just cut the back out so it fits more head sizes.
Okay.
And from there, you just tape half of it, and then take all that tape, slap it on fur, flip it, slap it on fur, and then sew it all together, slap it on, glue it down. And that's pretty much the process on that. Hand paws, you're just patterning, cutting, pinning, sewing, and done.
Okay.
Tails, same pattern, cut, pin, sew, done.
Same with like the body.
The body, yeah. Just you have to have the duct. Some people take the duct tape dummy. Some people take measurements. I am a duct tape dummy worshiper, so I will not take measurements at all. I only take measurements for like arms and arm sleeves and leg sleeves because usually I don't need. I don't want a whole body to just make arms or a whole body to make just legs. So I have like patterns specifically for that, and I have measurements that I take for that to make it. But it's the same process, just pattern, cut, pin, sew, done.
Okay. And like start to finish, how many hours does it take to?
I'm an outlier. I'm gonna say that. I am an outlier from the average. If I am working on one single project, we'll call it a mini partial because those I make the most. If I'm working on only one project, and it's a mini partial, it can take me anywhere from about 2 to 4 days to finish it. And that's with my normal schedule of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So almost 12 hours.
That's a long day.
That's a daily work day. That's what I used to work when I was at a full-time job. So I mean, minus an hour for lunch, and I do that so often. But
yeah,
so I work about 12 hours a day, sometimes overtime to get something done, but it only takes me about 2 to 4 days to get a whole mini partial.
Okay. What's the most challenging kind of part of making a suit?
Spots.
Okay. Spots.
No, most challenging, I would have to say, honestly, nothing. Nothing's really that hard. I mean, the head takes a little bit more time and is more hard in my hands because I have to shape all the foam and glue it all down and wait for it to like settle. But I wouldn't call it like challenging. The part that I hate to make the most would probably be feet because I don't want to glue. I'm lazy. I like hand paws because the hand paws can take me anywhere from like 30 minutes to an hour to make a set. So because my pattern's super easy. Tails are ridiculously simple. I blow through those like crazy. The heads just take longer, of course.
Yeah. Has there been any sort of memorable suits that maybe more challenging or
good or bad memorable? If I got both.
Maybe one of each.
Okay, let's see. Good memorable. I would have to say probably one of my more recent ones. Yeah, probably one of my more recent ones. There was a beautiful purple spotted hyena that I was making. And I was working on it, and finally got to the spot part, and I'm like, man, I don't want to sew these spots. So I'm sitting there, I'm sewing, I'm watching my YouTube shows, you know, doing my thing. And I finally got the whole bodysuit like sewn and finished. And I put it on the duct tape dummy to like make sure it actually looked good and fit. And I remember zipping it up, and I stepped back to take photos, and I was like, wow, I don't want to send this off to the client. This is too pretty. Like, this suit is so pretty. I want it to just stay in my office and be there for me to look at every day. And I remember I kept it on the duct tape dummy for like almost a week as I was working on other parts. So just so that I could look over at it and be like, yeah, I did that. That's pretty. I love that.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I kept telling the client, I'm like, if you, I would rather make you a new one than send this one off. Like, I would just rather make a new so that I can keep one to look at. And they're like, no, give me that. Obviously playful, we're all playful in there. But I ended up sending it off, and I was actually really sad to see it go, because you never know if you're going to ever see that suit again.
Yeah.
You never know if they're ever going to take that suit out of the closet. They may put it in the closet, and that's it. You're never going to see that suit online, you're never going to see it in person, nothing. But I was super sad, and I was like, please take care of it. Like, I love this suit
Take
so
care of
much.
it, go to all the conventions.
Please.
Yeah.
And so they take pictures all the time now. They send them in the chat and put it on Twitter and whatnot. So I get this pretty suit all the time, and I love it. As for bad, though.
You know, I mean, maybe not necessarily bad, but like challenging, right?
Challenging,
You get those things where stuff goes wrong, but hopefully you learn and grow from those experiences.
Yes. Oh, man. Let's see if I can find a picture. If I ever look back at my photos, I can probably figure out one. Let's see. Challenging. Okay, well, I know that there was one. It wasn't exactly like a full body or full suit. It was just the bodysuit. This client wanted tattoos on their suit. So I was like, okay, I think I'm going to applicate inking on top, and that way it's a complete difference. There's, a huge difference between it being a marking and it being an actual tattoo.
Okay.
And they were like, yeah, that sounds great. Issue was that they wanted it on the arm. So there's only so much space on the arm that you can do it.
Yeah.
Because the arm is realistically only a piece of fur that's like 24 by 10. Like, that's it.
Okay, yeah.
So, 24, 10, and then whatever the hell this is. And so I was like, okay, I have to size these down a little bit, and I have to figure it out. So I copied the pattern onto paper from my screen, set it down, had to resize it a few times, and I finally got down to the right size. And I went and applied it all. And I'm sitting there with my little minky scissors, and I'm trimming, trying to get these itty bitty little markings, itty bitty little pieces trimmed enough to where it looks right. And I finally got it. And then I'm brushing it out, and I'm realizing that all the fur that's sewn down now is coming up and over it. So then I had to go buy special scissors so that I could sit there and trim the fur without just shaving over it and making it look like a big fat bald spot on it. So then I had to deal with that. And so I'm sitting there, I'm lightly trimming around every single little crease and nook and cranny, and it was kind of a pain.
Yeah.
It took me a good 3 or 4 hours to get that done, because I just had to sit there and trim, brush, trim, brush, trim, and it just never stopped. Every time you brush, there was more fur in front of it, and I'm like, please, I just want the suit done. It's supposed to be a bodysuit, it's supposed to be quick. So it ended up being 4 days later than I expected, because I was just sitting there. I didn't want to send it off, and then to brush it, and then more fur show up, and it did not look great. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna sit here and do this 100 times until it stops. And it finally did, and it came out okay. Definitely have a better idea for next time.
Yeah.
Make it a little bit bigger.
So on that sort of theme, if you were to give advice to someone else who's just starting out doing fursuits or doing parts, do you have any kind of words of wisdom that you'd want to share?
The number one, do not take commissions off the bat. Never do it. And I will repeat this until I die. Never take commissions until you have made some suits prior. Make pre-mades, make friends, make your own suit, make, just make anything. Make anything that you want. Do not take commissions. Because when you are new and you don't have a grasp on the right method, you don't have a grasp on your speed, you don't have a grasp on any of that, you're going to undercharge. And that's not even the biggest issue. Undercharging is not that big of an issue. It's more, you're going to end up getting so much work because of your prices being low, that one, you're going to get very picky clients that want $10,000 plus quality for a brand new maker. And you're also going to end up falling into the commission hole, which plagues way too many makers nowadays. And it's a climb and a half to get out of it, and you have to be able to supply or support yourself financially while you're trying to dig yourself out of that. Because if you continue to take more and more and more, you are never going to clean out of that hole. And it will financially devastate you.
Yeah. Not to
And
mention
mentally.
the pressure from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So now you do custom.
Yeah, so I actually made that mistake back in the day. In 2020, I was taking on park commissions, which was fine. I was taking a handful of tail slots. I'd finish them all. I'd open up for more. Totally fine. You know, these anything parts, they're not going to take me that long. And if I was in a hole with just parts, I could dig myself out of that if I had a machine at that point. Instead, I was taking hard commissions, finishing them, easy peasy. I made 2 pre-mades, sold them off. I think I made 1 more after that. No, I was working on 1 more, and I ended up getting begged to take a commission for a head only. And I was like, I can do that. Like, I have nothing else that I'm doing. Why not? And I ended up taking it. And I was like, okay, this isn't too hard. And that kickstarted, I can take commissions. Like, I'm fine, this is easy. And from there, it ended up, I opened up with my prices being $900 plus, so it was very low for the time. And that ended up leading to a ton of people flooding me for commissions, which I was just taking everything I could get because money.
Yeah.
And I can totally do this. Yeah, this can't be too hard. I want to go buy this thing that's in the store. I'm just gonna go take a commission, like easy peasy. And it ended up with me being behind in work by about a year and a half.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was really bad for a little bit, and I finally had to realize that this isn't great because now people are waiting a year and a half to get something they bought. Like, this isn't responsible, this isn't good, and that money's gone. That money has been gone. So even if they wanted a refund instead, like I don't have that money now. It's gone. That money's floated away. Yeah. So now I have to, if they ask for a refund, now I have to scramble to try and get that money back to pay them back for a product that I should have delivered on time. Or I just need to buckle up and finish the suit. But if I'm working on a client that was a year and a half ago, and I take more, then how long are they going to wait? Because what if I don't finish this one fast enough to continuously be moving? Well, now this person might be waiting 3 years. And then when I get to that person, I might have another person that I take at that time who's going to be waiting 6 years. Wow. And it just grows and grows and grows.
And I imagine too, like as you adjust your pricing, if you were undercharged.
Yeah, exactly. So I could pay, somebody paid $900 a year and a half ago. Now I'm charging $1,300. Well, now I'm making a suit that has $1,300 worth of quality for $900, but technically I'm making it for $0 because that money's gone. Right. I've not paid anymore.
Yeah.
I got paid a year and a half ago. Not now. Now I'm getting paid $13 for a suit I'm going to finish in another year and a half. Like, it's just a horrible cycle. And it took a lot to get out of that cycle.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing I am kind of fascinated you were saying, sort of the lower cost customers seem to be a lot pickier.
So obviously you're going to have the outliers. Some some people who buy at $900, they expect what they expect. Like, they know what they're going to get. Especially if it's a newer maker. I'm not saying every single suit you see that is priced at a lower price than market average is poor quality. I'm not saying that.
Right.
Because even I price below market average because I try to bring more affordable fursuits to the wider audience. And if that's a price range that it will sustain me comfortably, then by all means, it's a win-win for both parties.
Yeah.
But if you are a newer maker, your methods and techniques are not going to be honed in as hard as if you were, a year or two into it. So when I first started, I wasn't making suits at the speed I'm making them now. It took me, a day to make a set of hand paws, whereas now I can whip them out in 30 minutes.
Oh wow.
So it all grows as you improve, which is great. But again, if you open up commission young, or not young, but young in your career, then you run into the risk of getting flooded, and all the picky customers are typically when you have lower prices, because they're expecting market standard, market average standard, whatever you want to claim. They're expecting that and not a beginner maker's,
Yeah.
They're thinking, oh, I'm going to get a fully lined, fully articulated, I'm going to get dye-subbed eyes, I'm going to get lined paws, I'm going to get completely lined feet with cooling in it and yada, yada, yada. And in reality, this new maker may not know any of that.
Right.
They might have a completely foam inside and you have to wear a balaclava. That used to be market standard.
How do you do lining on the inside of a head?
So what I do is I take a mannequin, so I have my mannequin head, his name is Henry. He is plastic. I love him. He's a trooper. He's been here since like 2021. He's a good boy. And I take him and I take a balaclava, and the fabric I use is what the hell is it called? It's some sort of spandex. I used to use spandex. I think your mom's suit has spandex in it. And I take that and I draw out the shape of basically just a huge like U-turn. I just draw a huge U-turn in fabric and sew that together, slap it on Henry, and then where the eyes are on Henry, I cut slits into that, and then I cut where his mouth is. So I make a weird looking slit mouth kind of guy, and then I'll take and put the head over it once it's fully glued down, and then I'll sit there and pin. I'll stretch the slit open in the eye hole and pin it down. And I don't do anything with the mouth until later because it's just easier. I'll pull them off Henry, I'll whip stitch the eyes to the liner, the fur to the liner, and then I'll ladder stitch the mouth liner, the black minky inside. I'll ladder stitch that to the fur. And once I have that done, I then stretch the mouth slit open, pin it inside, and then I'll whip stitch that to the liner. And that makes it a completely clean, easy to open if you need to, interior liner that keeps your head nice and cool while wearing it. And then you don't have to really worry about wearing a balaclava, because not everybody wants to wear one, not everybody has one, not everyone sells them. So I figured that was just an easier way, and it's just way easier for me because now I have that clean transition in the eye to glue the eyes in, and all of that glue also secures the seam, so that's not going to pop.
Have any other questions from our audience here?
Do you recommend doing lining first or putting the fur on first?
So I always put the fur on first. When I start, I take my foam base, I tape it, I pattern the fur, I completely sew it together. Once I get it glued, that's when I'll move on to the liner, and I'll get the liner all prepped and ready, slap it on Henry, start cutting it, pinning it, and then start sewing it on. I always do liner pretty much last. It's one of the last things I do. And then obviously I'll put the eyes in, I'll put the teeth in, I'll put the Velcro for the tongue in, and stuff like that afterwards. And then the eyeliner is 100% like last. Well, other than hair.
So then I was also going to ask you, you have a charity auction.
Yes, I do have a charity auction. I will be auctioning off a mini parcel that I created. It's a starry borzoi, one of the long snoot dogs. You can see them and check them out, check out their quality and stuff over at my booth in the dealer's den. It's booth 3 and 4. We have her on display. She comes with a head, hands, and tail. I don't think we've decided the starting bid yet. We're going to figure that out probably tomorrow. But we're hoping to raise a bunch of money for the charity, and hopefully we can manage that. But she's super cool. She comes fully lined. She has an NFC tag in the nose, so you can program it to go to a Telegram, Twitter, Instagram, website, whatever you want. Yeah. That way when you're out shooting and someone you know is like, oh my God, I love your suit, you can just be like, oh, you want to follow me? Just tap my nose, and then they set their phone on your nose, and it goes directly to whatever they want to program it to. Be it, their social media or a website or even a video. It doesn't matter. It could be anything. She also has a Velcro tongue with 2 placements in it, so it can be blepping or it can be in the mouth static.
Okay.
She has Dyson eyes, so they're waterproof and scratch proof. You can take her into the pool, you can take her out in the rain, it doesn't matter, you're not gonna hurt her, there's no paint that's gonna smear. It's completely heat treated, heat something, I don't know the word. Her tail has a bunch of hand sewn sparkles in it as well, so all of them are hand sewn in and then glued inside so that they don't pull out, hopefully. I mean, shit happens, you know, some sparkle might come out. But I sat there and glued every single little dot that I had to hand sew, so hopefully it'll stay. And then she has really soft, comfortable flat hand paws so that you can still grab drinks and your phone and stuff like that without dropping it or not being able to feel it.
Oh, that's super cool. No, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it for my only last question is I was curious. I noticed you had your bio that you're into Lego enthusiast myself. So I was curious what sets you particularly love to build.
Well, right now, so I built the orchids. I built bonsai. I like the flower ones for sure because I can put them out in the house and they look nice. I have the roses. Now I thought that the roses were actually like a bouquet, like set up on the tabletop, not like actual sticks.
Yeah,
for some reason.
no, they're like
I didn't notice
we have a
that.
set like that at home.
I didn't notice that until after I got it and was building it. And I'm like, oh shit. Now I have to find a vase,
Right?
and the only vase I
It's not
had.
included.
The only vase I had is like this tall, so like they didn't fit. And I'm like, okay, I guess I have to go find a vase for this. So I had to go find a vase, and I found one finally. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna order a bunch of little tiny little caps that they have, little one caps, and I'm just gonna dump them in there as like rocks or gravel or whatever. That way you don't see just the stems. But yeah, so I have that one. I just built the Vespa. I like the Vespa. The motorcycle ones are very nice.
Yep.
I have a Lego adjacent plane and airport thing that I set up. What else do I have? I think that's all the ones I've had time to build. But I also have one of the BMW motorcycles that I really want to build. I got that from my birthday this year.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
We went to the Lego store in Disney World or Disneyland, so I went and grabbed that. But I haven't had time to build it, so maybe someday.
Those ones are, yeah, my partner's
It's a lot.
really into all the Lego cars. So he
Oh.
builds all of those ones.
Yeah.
And then I'm into more about like cities.
Nice.
I love the sort of like.
If I had enough space, I'd probably do the cities, but I have no space for it.
Yeah.
I don't even have the space for the ones I have now, so.
There's I usually end up like selling to my neighbor's kid for money.
I mean, hey
Like,
man,
half off.
you gotta hustle.
Because that's, right, you know, especially in California, like it is very easy to run.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll be here. We'll be back tomorrow for the auction and closing ceremonies. And
At 4 o'clock.
yeah, can't
4
wait
o'clock.
to see you all tomorrow.
Yeah. And don't forget, I do have a Let's Talk Business panel for small business owners in the fandom, artists, makers,
Yeah.
whatever you are. I have that coming up in about an hour in the San Carlos panel room. So we'll be going through that and talking even more.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.